The fire started at about lunchtime today in bushland near Tomago Aluminium. Fanned by 80km/h northwesterly winds, the fire soon swept into the nearby custom chemical factory. Brigades from Newcastle, Tyneshill and Waratah attended the blaze, and it was some time before firemen knew exactly what chemical they were dealing with. Steel drums containing processing oil were exploding as firemen continued to spray foam on the blaze. At some stages, the flames rose 20 metres into the air. The major worry was plastic drums filled with hydrochloric acid, which firemen managed to keep between them and the fire. But the intense heat soon melted some of the blue plastic barrels, spilling dangerous acid at the feet of firemen.
And the fact that the heat from the fire and also from the exploding drums did melt some of the plastics, and of course the men then had raw acid at their feet as well.
While they were fighting the fire?
While they were fighting the fire, they therefore had to take extra precautions and use breathing apparatus. Not only did they have to fight the fire, they also had to be careful that they didn't fall within the acid.
At Ashtonfield near Maitland, firemen were contending with another blaze. Once again, the gusty winds caused problems for firefighters as the flames came dangerously close to the Green Hills nursing home and nearby houses. A spokesman for fire control in Newcastle says that after more than 6 hours of fighting the blaze, it now appears to be under control.
The Tomago Sandbeds fire last night, but early this morning strong winds rekindled the blaze, forcing fire units back on the scene. These firemen were called back about 1:30 this morning, fighting the fire all day yesterday. As the strong westerlies fanned the blaze through the tinder-dry bush, firemen were concerned administration and training facility buildings owned by the Hunter District Water Board would be threatened. Throughout the day, all firemen could do was to stand by and let the fire burn itself out and stop it from spreading to property. It's estimated 100 square hectares of bushland has been burnt out.
About 350 staff members from Elcon Collieries met today at the Toronto RSL Club to consider grievances related to their superannuation fund. The members, who are all in middle management in Elcon Mines, voted to go out on strike for 72 hours. When their strike finishes, they also plan to impose overtime bans and limitations on communications. The bone of contention centres on the staff members' superannuation fund. According to their union, the Australian Colliery Staff Association, the fund needs an overhaul because it is not fair and equitable. A working party convened by the state government to look at the scheme recommended a number of changes, but the state government rejected the recommendations on Friday, saying they'd be too costly and could cause flow-ons.
We would be, if you like, on the bottom rung of the ladder as far as superannuation goes within the mining industry. The return that we get we consider is not fair and equitable to the members, and it is certainly substantially less than community standards.
What effect will your bans and limitations have?
I would imagine the effect that it'll have on the mining industry or the Electricity Commission mines is that the men will be called out of the mine for safety reasons. It is most unlikely that the management will run the risk of producing coal while the on-site management isn't there to supervise safety, and consequently there'll be time lost at all Electricity Commission collieries.
An Electricity Commission spokesman said, however, that they are trying to get an order from the Coal Industry Tribunal to direct the staff to go back to work. He said there would be no immediate threat to electricity because there was an average stockpile of 11 to 12 weeks. The miners would not be stood down at this stage, but the situation would be reassessed when the outcome of the tribunal hearing was known.
Hello everyone, I'm Mark Warren. Tonight I'll be reporting some good news for farmers. In the last 24 hours throughout the region, heavy falls of rain have been recorded, easing the extremely dry conditions experienced over the winter season.
Join Ray Deneen and Anna Manzoni for all the news tonight at 6.
Hello, I'm Helen Hughes. At Newcastle Technical College, a report was launched today looking at women in apprenticeships. The study looks at the experiences of female apprentices and the difficulties they encounter working in traditionally male-dominated trades.
Join Ray Deneen and Anna Manzoni for all the news tonight at 6.
Hello, I'm Matthew Clark. Across the state today, more than 25,000 high school students sat down to the most important task in their school careers, the high school certificate. Here in the Hunter, 2,500 students are sitting the exam.
Join Ray Deneen and Anna Manzoni for all the news tonight at 6.
Harold Gill's year of achievement in off-road racing began when he picked up second place overall in the Australian Championship driving an off-road buggy. But it's after that that Gill's latest success unfolded. At late notice, he was called in to drive a Nissan four-wheel drive in the gruelling 9-day Wind Safari. He finished an impressive 9th in that event and was the best placed Nissan. Now he's heading off to Japan tomorrow, where he'll become the first Australian, along with partner Les Sivia, to compete in the Japanese off-road championships. And again, he'll be driving a Nissan.
Well, the promoters in Australia are trying to promote four-wheel drive vehicles more so than buggies because they can draw the crowds. People can associate themselves with them. So, yeah, I think that's the way it's going.
For Gill, it seems the four-wheel drives might be where his future is. And that if all goes well in this event, he might be setting his sights overseas more often and on some of the world's toughest off-road events. The state government is coming under increasing pressure to make significant changes to its controversial wilderness report. In the latest development, the timber industry has sent a scathing criticism of the report to the government.
Join Ray Deneen and Anna Manzoni for all the news tonight at 6.
Directory Assistance, what name, please?
Directory Assistance is one of Telecom's most popular services, so much so at times the operators can be snowed under with calls. To ease that congestion and in some cases frustration, Telecom has replaced its old Directory Assistance equipment with new gear. These latest additions were officially opened today by the member for Newcastle, Alan Morris. Telecom says that if all the Directory Assistance operators at the Hamilton Exchange are busy, your call via the new electronic wizardry can be diverted to operators in other parts of the state, like Sydney or the Goulburn Exchange. Also gone are the telephone books. All the numbers in the state are now on computer and can be called up by the operators at the touch of a key. So next time you call Directory Assistance, remember the operators are working as fast as modern technology can let them.
333. That's right. Thank you.
May be all felt and lamb's wool, but the company doesn't believe in taking the soft shoe approach. Next week, the first shipment of 8,000 koala slippers will cross the Tasman. If the New Zealanders start stepping out in them in large numbers, the House with No Steps will take their product to Japan and America. Management want the slippers worn year-round to keep production at their workshop constant. Summer here is winter in the Northern Hemisphere, so it's the obvious market to aim for. This year, the staff of 80, two-thirds of whom are intellectually handicapped in some way, turned out over 20,000 pairs of slippers each month. Regional Director Ron Weeks expects this production figure to triple if the export push is successful. He says that only one thing now is holding back expansion.
We not only need able-bodied staff in the sewing positions, but we need a lot more disabled labour. So we could probably start another 20 disabled persons tomorrow if they wanted to work here.
And what's the special product you've developed for the international market?
The Minister's visit to Newcastle was to launch, with State Minister for Employment Pat Hills, the clerical traineeship scheme in private industry. According to Mr Willis, the program has meant a first in cooperation between employee groups, unions and the government. It will parallel with the existing apprenticeship system, but he says it's now up to the businesses to make the scheme work.
The task now is really to get individual employers to come in and take on trainees. In a sense, we provided all of the groundwork to that stage. We have industrial agreements which provide the conditions of employment for the trainees. We have the training arrangements all worked out and agreed by all relevant parties. Now it needs the employers to come on stream, take the trainees on. Of course, there's government assistance from both the federal and state governments to do that. And we hope that we will be very successful with getting employers large and small to take on trainees in large numbers in the future.
With a significant new initiative of this kind, we need to remain vigilant and alert to the types of concerns that might be expressed by individuals and community groups about some of the other existing anomalies that may still well be within the system, even when we take these identifiable ones out. So I couldn't be sure that this will be the end of it. I would be surprised if it were the end of it.
Absorbing a little of Australia's culture in the wings before rehearsal today, the members of the Great China Spectacular warmed up for tonight's opening at the Civic Theatre. The Spectacular is made up of the Beijing Opera, the Nanjing Acrobatic Troupe and the Kung Fu Troupe of Jiangsu. It's the first time the three troupes have performed together. The highlight of the performance is the Lion Dance. It's a traditional dance which the Chinese say reflects the happiness of the working people. And if you think balancing a chopstick on your nose is hard, try balancing an egg on that chopstick. And then another egg, just for good measure. The Spectacular will open in Newcastle tonight for 4 performances, including a matinee on Saturday. Glamour Studios operate out of this building in Lambton. Owner Paul Hubbard is himself a photographer, and he says since opening the business this week, the phone has been running hot. Paul, what sort of business are you operating here?
It's the first of this type of concept in the Newcastle area. It's called a total glamour experience. It's called Glamour Studios, and what we're trying to provide for as wide and diverse a range of customers as possible is we're catering for artists, we're catering for illustrators, painters and sculptors, we're catering for still photographers and video photographers.
And this, according to advertisements in the local press, is the service Glamour Studios offer. A dream come true for you, and promising attractive models, male and female, all under the age of 21. Read the recruiting ad on the same page, and the picture becomes clearer.
All right, the customer comes in here. The models are not trained. They are trained to be confident and capable of working nude should it be required. They are not expected to work nude, and most photographers, I'm finding 60 to 70% of the market do not require it, so the girls don't go nude. They just go down to some panties, maybe topless, maybe see-through, their choice. However, if the photographer says, look, I would like you to go nude, please, then they are confident and capable.
Is it desirable in Newcastle to have a studio like this that caters, even if it is only 30% of the market, to that sort of nude and pornographic photography?
Well, it's definitely not pornographic photography. I've drawn that fine line, and it is a fine line. Glamour as such is a very classy, upmarket, high image, appealing type of image.
Along with the report by Dr. John Nell, a biologist at the Brackish-Water Fish Culture Research Station, submissions from the oyster farmers and anti-dump activists were given to the State Member for Newcastle, Arthur Wade, this afternoon to be passed on to Mr Carr. According to Dr Nell's report, the oyster naturally accumulates fluoride contained in the water around it, and while natural levels are acceptable, the rise of only a couple of parts per million of fluoride would mean the oyster could be unfit for human consumption. Oyster farmers say that what the State Pollution Control Commission and Tomago don't realise is that siting the dump near 12 Mile Creek could have disastrous consequences, as any leak would automatically travel down to Pipeclay Creek, where oysters are grown in the upper reaches. Alcan smelter, they say, recycles its fluoride, considering it too valuable to dump. Oyster farmers and the Wallaroo Group have implored in their submissions to Mr Carr that more consideration by Tomago be given to this alternative, or for an unqualified guarantee from the SPCC and Tomago that waste from the Wallaroo dump site would not escape. The group say that unless they have this guarantee, the Wallaroo site will continue to be totally unacceptable.
This is the latest addition to the Australian Navy fleet. It's the prototype of a series of ships which will be built specifically to hunt and destroy mines in the shallow waters of harbours and channels. The Rush Cutter is revolutionary in many ways. It's the first Australian Navy ship built of fiberglass. The sandwich foam technique was developed by the Hunter Valley shipbuilder Carrington Slipways. The Minehunter is designed to have an extremely low magnetic and noise signal. It's also unusual for the Navy to choose a catamaran hull for this 31-metre long ship. They look like yellow submarines, but these two devices, in fact, are what gives the Minehunter its sting. They form an integral part in what's a very potent weapon system. These mini-subs can swim to the bottom and send back pictures of the suspicious object. If it's confirmed to be a mine, it can blow it up. At the Tomago building site near Newcastle today, the Navy piped on the crew who will man the vessel. The chiefs of Australia's three armed forces inspected the ship, along with Minister for Defence Kim Beazley. Mr Beazley hopes the $30 million cost of the prototype can be offset by selling the Minehunter to other navies.
So what we're doing at the moment is, within our budgetary constraints, having a talk to Carrington's. We've still got another few months to see if there is some solution that we can come to which will enable them to maintain their workforce before we move from the first two of these vessels to building the additional 4 that we need, and who knows how many for the export market after that.
Changed the annual festival to early November. For the first time in years, clear skies and clean shoes. The State Treasurer Ken Booth, assisted by local dignitaries, officially opened the 3-day festival in the packed beer hall. And while the keg tush was being touched dry, the dancing began.
they are celebrating Oktoberfest. It's just become a traditional festival of merriment, of goodwill, of beer drinking, of good food with it, because if you don't eat good food with it, you might find that the beer gets too much for people.
Mr Dunkley enlisted the support of two federal Liberal parliamentarians, Jim Carlton, the Shadow Treasurer, and Wilson Tuckey, the colourful Shadow Minister for Small Business. Iron Bar Tuckey lived up to his reputation, firmly prizing the door to the campaign headquarters open before firmly denying the Queensland election result was of real concern.
Obviously the polls were giving us false expectations, and because we didn't win as many seats as they thought we would, some people are sad. I just see it as a continuing rebuilding process for us.
Hunter is traditionally a swinging seat with a very strong National Party presence. Aren't the Liberals just begging for a beating, contesting it?
Oh no, I don't think we'll have a beating here. This has got a large urban population in the seat and they traditionally vote Liberal. But I don't think we'll allow it to become a contest between the Nationals and the Liberals. It'll be a contest between the Coalition and the Labor Party.
Thank you.
Rescue services were called to the intersection of Woomera Avenue and the Pacific Highway at about 10 to 3 this afternoon. Eyewitnesses say that the orange Ford Falcon had just left the nearby service station and was heading into Woomera Avenue when it was hit by a semi-trailer travelling south along the highway. Ambulance, police and fire brigade rescue units worked for more than half an hour to free the two occupants of the car. The passenger, who was believed to be a 40-year-old man from the Sydney suburb of Fairfield, died despite the efforts of paramedics on the scene. The driver was taken to Belmont Hospital and she is reported to be in a satisfactory condition. The semi-driver was unhurt.